Brandon Cristal here with you. It is Football Fridays. We're going to break down everything that the Broncos are looking at, look back at the tough loss to the Colts, and ahead to the trip to LA in the Chris Harris Bowl. Broncos and Chargers. Football Fridays with Chris Harris Jr. and BK comes your way next. Chris, last week we had the Peyton Manning Bowl, Colts versus Broncos. We've seen it a few times, obviously, since Peyton came here almost 15 years ago. Yeah. But people don't make as much. There's not a Chris Harris statue outside the Chargers Stadium, which we know isn't even really their stadium. But you played 2 years there near the end of your career, third and second last year of your career before you finish up with the Saints. So, yeah. Do you look at this as a Chris Harris Bowl, or you're a Bronco who spent some time with the Chargers?
No, I'm definitely a Bronco that spent some time with the Chargers, but it's the Strap Bowl. We're calling it the Strap Bowl. But I'm excited to see these two teams play, especially a big game. And I still have a lot of friends over there in LA with the Chargers and ex-teammates, and they're having a good year so far. So it's going to be a big game, man. It's a lot at stake. And we're going to break down some key plays, especially from last week's loss, that we can definitely see Coach Harbaugh will dial up this weekend.
Yeah, so before we go into the film room, that'll come your way here in just a little bit. Let's just kind of do a 30,000-foot view of the game. You're watching it. You're texting me during it. I'm there at the game. The Broncos, obviously give them some big plays that we're going to get into, but the defense showing bend but not break several times. 4 times into the red zone and 4 field goals to go with those, obviously, touchdowns. So it all comes down to that last kick, a 60-yarder. And I thought, are you sitting there thinking, why aren't they trying to pick up a couple more yards? A 60-yarder with a kicker that doesn't have a lot of experience. What's going through your head as that final sequence and Steichen's letting the clock run down?
Yeah, definitely trying to. I thought he misused those last his last seconds for sure. Being able to just forfeit and just try to accept the 60-yard field goal, and especially with a young kicker, I think that he definitely we bailed him out with that, with our penalty, with the leverage penalty. And, Coach Peyton said that he went and caught a block at that time, which, in that situation, that was a bad call, because now you force your guys to do that kind of leverage call and to be able to lose the game. So, it's a whole learning experience for both ways, and but our last penalty was the major one that ended up biting us in the butt.
Yeah, it's interesting because you think of just and I almost asked Darren Rizzi this, and you were with Rizzi when you were in New Orleans, right?
Yeah,
and he's as good a special teams coach as there is. Yesterday he talked, but and he started just by basically off the kick right off the top. But what I wanted to ask him, and we just didn't get to it, maybe I'll ask him if I catch him on, just in passing, is we could probably name almost every 60-yard field goal that's ever been made ever, right? Yeah. Justin Tucker made the 65-yarder or 60 set, whatever it was, to set the new record. We know about Janikowski and Prater both hitting 64-yarders here. And I'm sure there's a couple more, but a 60-yarder, we can go back to the Monday night game in Seattle a couple of years ago where Nathaniel Hackett settles for a 63-yard field goal for BMAC to try. And you just know the average isn't very good, really beyond 57, 58. It's not great, but certainly when you hit that 6-0 number, and yes, kickers have gotten better, and we understand all that. Brandon Aubrey, of course, for the Cowboys last week, a big 64-yarder. But to have field goal block called there, I appreciate both Sean and Darren Rizzi saying that, guys got out of, it's the one thing Riz said yesterday was that guys were in different spots because they just kind of, I guess ad-libbed it a little bit. They knew the responsibility. Yeah. But to have block, just fire out, and that's it, and let the football gods dictate where it goes.
Right. Yeah. When you play the percentages, right, and we were really urgent and believing that he could make that 60-yard kick, and end up having a mental error. And you can see right there, they're not lined. They're trying to get a line, trying to get guys in the right area. And it definitely looks like a leverage call if you look from the backside, right? He leans over the center, and then a guy jumps on top of the center also. So I don't know if that could have been 2 flags, right?
It was explained by Sean Payton on Monday on his conference call that you can push down on the center, but you can't essentially vault off of them, right? So you can't boost yourself up. So you can just block them into the ground. As long as your feet are on the ground and you're driving down, the guy behind you can jump as long as they don't touch you. And obviously use the defender or the offensive player, the defensive player can't push down to get leverage. So a little bonus film room there. But you see DeAndre Tillman, and you saw him flip with, I think, maybe DJ Jones. But so were those the guys that weren't in the position they were supposed to be? I don't know, but it's one of those things where you know how hard wins are to come by in the NFL, and especially when you talk about this division where we know the Chiefs are 0-2, but they're not going to remain winless. You know the Chargers obviously are going to be right there till the end, and the Raiders, I get that they lost to the Chargers the other night, but they're clearly improved, and Pete Carroll is going to coach them up right. And so know that they lose that game, they have to kind of go steal one now, whether that's at Philly or the Chargers this week, to make up for it. Because the Colts were doing all they could between penalties and everything else to give the game to the Broncos.
Right. And the Colts could be a team that they're in the driver's seats to win their division. Right. So it wouldn't be a wild card competition. That's probably the only good thing that happened from that game. But right now, the Broncos, this is a must win. They cannot allow the Chargers to get a 3-game lead on top of that double winning the tiebreaker. So count it as 4. So they can't allow that to happen. This is a huge game for them that it's a must have. They got to treat this like a championship game and play with high urgency. And
so let's just look at the things that they did well, and then the things that they can improve on before we jump into the film room and look at specifics. But so offensively, we saw 3 straight drives, not the longest possessions, but 3 possessions that ended in touchdown passes, all from Bo Nix, spreading it around, clearly on the same page with Troy Franklin, one of his favorite targets at Oregon. So what did you like from that Broncos offense, especially in the first half? And you got that J.K. Dobbins touchdown run to start the second half.
Yeah, I think J.K. is starting to get in that groove, right? He's looking good. We got to just continue to be consistent with him and Harvey, continue to feed those guys when we can. I would love to see if we can get Harvey matched up on, we got, what's the third running back, Batty?
Bidet.
Bidet, right?
He changed his name to Bidet. We're going to call him Bidet. So Bidet.
Well, he had a great play off the screen and made, a big play for us. Find ways to get these guys open in the backfield. Because we've seen from the first 2 games that those guys are playmakers. Also, I love the way Bo Nix played. He played it exactly how he needed to play on the road. He gave his team a shot to win the game. Franklin, Franklin's out there making plays, man. He as a quarterback, you got to have somebody that you trust, right? And of course, I think he trusts Cortland Sutton, but you need some more guys. And being able to have Franklin step up was huge. But also, man, shout out to Mims. Like, Mims took the guy up top early, right? And that was a big-time throw with Bo Nix. So I like what I seen from the offense. Yeah, Bo had one, key mistake, but, he fairly played a solid game.
Well, and that's the one thing I grabbed from Bo's press conference on Wednesday. Not that, look, he'll dwell on the negatives all that he wants, but he was asked, how do you balance taking risks? Because you look at that throw to Cortland, it was tipped, and Dave Logan on the call, because I was listening to the radio call sitting there in the press box. Dave Logan's like, I think it was tipped, and you couldn't really see it on the replay, but then Sean Payton did bring that up on Monday. So I know we have the clip of Bo Nix. So I think David will get it ready here for us, and we'll get to it. But, it's tricky because if you look, Cortland is open. Now, do you need to take that risk? Because if you don't, you almost certainly come away with 3, and thus the Will Lutz miss doesn't matter as much either. So if we can get that Bo Nix clip here ready shortly, you can see how he responds, because you want your young quarterback to be confident. You want him to kind of take what the defense gives you. And if you see your best receiver running open and you can put the game away, essentially, because that would have put them, I think that, looking back at it, I think Cortland was, inside the 10, right? He's probably right around the 5 or 6. Even if he doesn't score, that sets you up 1st and goal, and you can run more clock. So just before we get to Bo's comments, where do you come down on the risk versus reward and playing it conservative when you have that lead?
Well, I think every quarterback is, different. And we know with Bo Nix, he's always been a gunslinger. So I can definitely see him taking a lot of risks, taking chances. And you kind of got to live with that with the guy like Bo Nix. That it's kind of like a Brett Favre. He's going to take a lot of throws. He's going to make a lot of throws, and he's going to throw some interceptions. It is what it is. So that's kind of how I look at it with Bo. And so I'm interested, to see how he bounces back this week, right? Going against a tough defense. that's been very stingy in the back end, fast linebackers, and just being able to, get better week to week. And I seen him improve from the Titans game. Let's see, he played better versus the Colts. Let's see him take that next step to game 3 and play even better.
All right, so let's hear from the Broncos quarterback Bo Nix on the balance of, taking a risk versus evaluating, the safer play. How do you manage risk taking?
I mean, there's a fine line. When it's there, you got to hit it. So for me, I'm always going to be aggressive, especially with our defense. Knowing that they can go out there and get a stop, but you can't play the game. You can't play the position soft. You got to go out there and be aggressive. And if you get gun shy, if you're scared to make a bad play, it's usually when the bad plays happen.
Everything I just said, he pretty much he said gun shy. He said I'm aggressive, right? So just with Bo Nix, you're gonna lose some. He's gonna throw some picks, right? He's a gunslinger, right? He's gonna play aggressive. He's gonna take chances, and that's why people wanted him, right? That's why we wanted him. We wanted a guy that was fearless back there, and that's just what comes with the show, man. That just comes with his job. So don't get mad at him. Just expect it.
Yeah, and I think you want the quarterback that's going to take the chance. You don't want to be careless, but you also don't want them to maybe protect the ball too much. Going back real quickly to the Thursday night game, and they kept talking about Tua doesn't throw interceptions. And then he finally does. You're like, oh, it's so one, out of character. 2, did they jinx him? But, I think about Shedeur Sanders holding onto the ball and taking sacks last year.
Yeah.
And, he's accused, I think even in practice, maybe by some of his Browns teammates. You hear rumblings that he's so protective of the football that he doesn't always take that risk. And I think you want the quarterback that's going to take the chance and give you a chance to win.
Yeah, and like you said, he trusted his defense. Did y'all hear that? Right? That was one thing that was key. When you trust your defense that, hey, they got my back, I can just go out here and play and just let it loose. You're gonna have some interceptions. It's gonna happen like that, and then you're gonna have a lot of big plays, right? So it's gonna come with it. But one thing he said, he trusts his defense, so we know he's gonna play aggressive.
Yeah, and so speaking of that defense that he trusts, before we get to the film room, Vance Joseph was asked about the things that didn't work well, and you see VJ take accountability here. But you do have to look, and no punts, not good. 165 yards, obviously a bunch came on one really big run, but Jonathan Taylor looked like a top back that he is. And then those busted coverages that we are going to get into in the film room. But the fact that they were averaging almost 10 yards on first down is concerning.
Yeah.
When they needed to bring in a couple times, especially on fourth down, we're going to see one of those plays here in a little bit. They did. But let's listen to VJ here real quick and hear him talk about kind of what the Colts did well, but also, what they were able to kind of take away late and where they're headed.
I think early on they had a good plan. They made some explosive plays on first down, which we knew going into the game. They made 12 the previous week before, so we knew that going into the game. But they called a good game in the first half. Finding the tight end was tough on us early on, and we kind of mismanaged a couple zones with the halfback swings. That was strictly on me. I'll coach it better and we'll move on. But I thought we battled. At halftime, we made major adjustments and came out and played better football. That's what matters.
And he's right. They did. When you look at what they did in the first half versus what they did in the second half, and then obviously, well, actually, one more thing I want to get to before we get to the film room.
Mm-hmm.
The notion that PS2 was targeted, because I asked Sean about it post game, and then he was asked again about it on Monday. He's like, I do not think their game plan was like, let's go after number 2. And you look at some of the plays that were made on him, it was clearly not the first read, even though Daniel Jones is a first read quarterback, you would say. And you can speak to this better than anybody. Guarding a guy for 6 seconds across the field is not easy. I remember when you've been tasked with doing that with Tyreek Hill, and it didn't always work out in your favor. Thinking of a game here on Monday night a few years back. But he's still the best cornerback in football, so he's expected to make every single play. Where do you come down on the idea that whether he's picked on or not, they definitely targeted the receiver he was covering, even if it was in the progression?
Yeah, I mean, I just think Daniel threw at everyone. He just didn't shy away from throwing at PS2 or J-Mac or Riley. I think he tested all of them, and that just shows the confidence that he has in his offense right now. PS2, I think he gave up 60 yards, right? That's a solid game, for an average cornerback in the league. And not giving up any touchdowns, that would be that's a solid game, right? It's not his best game, but he didn't play bad. But usually when teams play like how the Colts came in, throwing quick passes, shallow crosses, slants, 5-yard routes or 5-yard step where they go inside, bang routes. That's what they were running on PS2. It wasn't nothing, too serious or anything that I'm worried about. No, Riley Moss had the plays where they were running double moves, go balls, all different types of routes. He kind of had the harder job on the routes that the Colts ran at him. So, but I would say PS2 had it was average game. It wasn't bad, but it's not anything to say like, oh, he's done. He just, with a 60-yard game and not giving up any touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he has raised the standard because he's played so well, because he's held all of these frontline receivers to very little production, whether it was DK Metcalf or, despite I think his worst game ever was that primetime game against Devontae Adams a few years ago, but he has certainly kept Devontae in check in later years. And so when you set that standard, and look, you played opposite of Champ too, not just Talib, you played opposite of Champ, and Champ, who first ballot Hall of Famer, 12 Pro Bowls, all that. PS2's headed that way. So when anyone has any success, it's a surprise.
Oh yeah, I mean he's right there on that pace, and there's so many receivers that are good. These quarterbacks, they can throw the ball anywhere. So it doesn't matter who you are, you got to lace them up every week and continue to prove. Right? Last year he was the defensive player of the year. This year he has to prove it all over again. That's the good thing about the NFL is that you got to prove it every week. And as of the first 2 weeks, somebody else would probably be the top corner in the league right now. But, PS2 is definitely a guy that's taking on a lot of responsibility on the defense, taking on harder positions in the scheme, right, to help out his teammates, other guys around him. And, they're just getting started. It's early, but now you got a championship game kind of week 3. So now you got to kind of snap out of it, get ready. And, we need a big game for those boys this week.
So let's hop into the film room now and look at what did work. You heard VJ say they were, obviously successful early. We didn't even really hear from Warren in the second half. And other than one huge play from Taylor, that was really the only time we heard from him as well. But let's start with this in the first quarter where we always hear Sean Payton talk about Joker, and Tyler Warren absolutely qualifies as a Joker. So I know David's going to call these up, and we're going to hop into the film room. So this is obviously in the first quarter. It's easy to spot 84. Your tight ends lined up in the backfield.
They brought him. They're in a pistol look, right? They brought him through the hole. Broncos are sending 5. They're sending 5, so they're in man-to-man coverage. The backer and is that Sennard and Singleton are, they're doubling the running back and the tight end. The other backer has to push. Singleton has to push to that corner route. That's his play, right? That's his play. He has to stop. It was a great scheme by the Colts, but Singleton was playing it like he's in zone, and that's your man. You got to get on that guy fast, and that turned out to be a huge play for us.
Yeah, because it's easy to see Sternad runs with Taylor, but Alex is just too flat, obviously, right?
Too flat. He's looking in the backfield. He's not looking at his man. Great play call, great scheme. And, they're going to see it again, and NFL is a copycat league, and they're going to run the play until you stop it.
Okay, let's look at not one, but 2 big plays to Jonathan Taylor, who we know obviously has beaten plenty of teams with his legs, and he's as good a running back as there is. Maybe, he's a top 3, top 5 kind of guy. In my opinion, I'd imagine you have him pretty high up there too. So we're going to see what feels like almost the same play. Let's start with just a big gain. And this is on that wheel route. We'll back it up here a little bit.
Same thing, man to man. VJ's bringing 5. We either brought 5 and we played man, and brought 5 and played zone. The Colts, they were smart. They brought them in motion. That showed them that they're in man because Singleton had to run out with them, and he was able to get outflanked. Right? When they do things like this, I would have to tell Barron, you need to get up because he's too soft. Or who is that? Is that Jones?
Yeah, I think it was
right there.
Yeah,
right?
Jones was in the slot essentially, or on Warren.
Yeah, we need to tell him to scoot up so my linebacker can get over the top, right? He's playing too soft. Him playing soft now, he gets picked. Now it's free reign from the running back, and this is what we're going to see every week, right? The Chargers last year they threw at the Broncos with their running backs and their tight ends and Lad McConkey, right? We're going to see the same. It's going to be the same action this week until we can show that we can cover running backs out the backfield.
All right, well then let's jump to the next play. It's I bet we're going to see almost the exact same thing. I don't know if it's the exact same personnel that's on the field, other than I'm fairly certain Singleton is there. And so this is the touchdown.
Right. Now we got Barron in, right? 23.
Yeah.
Right. That's his play. They're in a fire zone. BJ again. Once again, he's blitzing 5. Right. So you got 3 under, 3 on top. Now you have to be able to pass off this mesh. And for the average listener, your brain would be spinning trying to break this down, right? But right now, they're starting out in a slot look. He motions over. They bump it. Barron has to flank out to the running back. That's his man.
Right. Can
right?
we see, is that PS2 on top go with the receiver?
PS2 has to stay there. He can't go. We call that a tube route, right? You got to let that go to the backer. PS2 should be waiting for the guy coming back over from the opposite side, right? And they're just playing it all wrong. They're kind of playing it like a man zone, but it's a zone, right? Because we know it's zone because Barron's not running with the receiver. So he has to get out to the flank to the top to the running back. And the Colts is smart, right? You got a rookie out there. He might not understand motions and adjustments fast, right? He has a busted coverage. Now we get a touchdown.
Well, so we can obviously talk about Barron there, but we don't want to pile on. But as you said, PS2 has to kind of stay in his zone and wait for the crosser coming back the other way there.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Unless they call a call where they have a nub. And fire zones, we usually never would take a shallow cross. Right. We would let that go, pass it off, and then we would zone up, wait for the next guy to come. We would call that a tube route. So the way they were playing that, everybody was mixed up. None of them were on the same page. Right. Yeah. I can't even blame it just on the rookie because all of them were scrambling.
Yeah, and we did see something similar on the Broncos touchdown pass to Troutman, where Broncos are in basically goal line personnel and they're in a goal line defense. They split everybody out wide, and it was a point like if they snap it quick, Troutman wasn't even covered, but linebacker runs out, not really sure what he's supposed to do. Troutman easy in the back of the end zone. So when that happens, it's almost like you need to be able to call timeout. Now you didn't know that Barron's not going to go flat. He's got to go basically anything short, and Pat's got to stay on his side deeper, essentially, right? Yeah. In that zone. Right. And so
and if you're playing fire zone, if we're playing man, we're gonna see Barron, we're gonna see him running with that motion, right? Pat would be running with his guy. But since we see zone, we see him not running across the field, bumping, right? We know everything is zone, play your spot, 3 man under, 3 on top. We're rushing 5. And that was VJ's strategy, right? And what did they do? They run swing routes with the running back. They got 5 receivers out. So your rush has to win. The rush didn't win with those 5, with the 5-on-5 1-on-1s. And you just got to give it up to the Colts. They had a great job blocking. And VJ's answer that he did was all-out blitz in the second half, really.
Yeah.
Right? He was like, okay, I'm just going to all-out blitz you. My linebackers have to peel off. My outside guys have to peel off. And it ended up working out for them, So it's always a chess match. And, the first 2 with zone coverage, fire zone coverage, and man didn't work out. So he just like, hey, I'm just going to all-out blitz you.
Can you explain real quickly the difference of what makes something a fire zone versus, hey, we're just in zone defense? What qualifies it to be fire zone?
Yeah. Fire zone, you would make something more than likely you could bring 5, right? You have 4-man pressure fire zones. So it's like a man concept / zone. So it would be hard. It's hard to describe without showing a picture of it. But just imagine a zone, but we can bring one out of that zone and kind of replace it with a safety or say like what we did to Tom Brady in the playoffs, right? We're in a fire zone. Vaughn drops out. He throws it to Vaughn, right? He doesn't know he's coming. So you can do a lot of different things with a fire zone, and be able to. Right now, he's calling the Sam and the Will to blitz. So he's calling a double-edged fire zone with three. You have the safety, and you have the nickel, and you have the middle linebacker, all coordinating those three, and then you have the middle field safety and two corners, right? So it's kind of 5-3-3, kind of. Does that make sense for you, Brandon?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the difference.
Well, and there's also, I think, because I don't want to say that announcers get it wrong, but there's a kind of a gray area of what is qualified as a blitz versus just your pressure. And are you of the school that bringing 5 still isn't a blitz unless it's a safety coming or a DB that is clearly, responsible? But if it's basically your 5 interior players, or even what qualifies it to be a blitz, I guess.
I would qualify bringing 5 as a blitz for me, just because in my head as a corner, I know if we bring 5, I shouldn't be covering as long, right? Because somebody should have a one-on-one. If they do have extra help, then I'm gonna have extra coverage. Say if the running back stays in, then we're gonna have an extra linebacker in the hole or somewhere. So that's kind of how I would see it. But commentators, they're gonna get mixed up and trying to understand these coverages and fronts. And the reason why I can break down this stuff very easy is because I played for VJ for multiple years, and he ran a lot of the same system as Wade Phillips. Jack, all these things are the same for me. So this is like clockwork for me.
Okay, well then let's look at when it did work, because the Broncos were 6 of 13 on third down, which isn't great, not terrible, but you want to be under 40. You want to be under 30, and they're usually one of the best third down teams. They have been kind of from when you played, and even through Vic and all of that, and even the year with Hackett, Avero's third down D was good. They've been good these last couple of years. So third down is usually a calling card. Well, they were pretty good on third down, but they were great on fourth down. The 2 fourth down plays, including right before the play that we're going to see, there was a holding call that would have backed them up. Now, you then run into it. Will there be a penalty that automatically gives them a first down? Will they make a play? And you got to give both Sean and VJ credit, but Sean especially say, no, our defense is going to make this play on 4th and 2. And so let's jump to the final play in the film room, because, still plenty of time left in the game, but this is bringing the house, right?
Yes, sir. Now, this was his adjustment. Was like, forget it. We're just going to play man, bring the house. Right. And that was a great call. And that's what we needed to do for this guy. Speed him up even faster. Right. We're not getting home with 5. Our D line couldn't win a lot of one-on-ones this game. You got to give credit to the Colts O-line. And so VJ adjusted, went all out blitz, and it worked for us. And, we used to do this a lot. This was one of our staples with the Super Bowl 50 team, with the no fly. Right. We lived in zero coverage. And it was able to, make a lot of plays off shallow routes like that, So I think that's a good job by VJ, being able to adjust and find ways to be able to attack it, right? But, we got to be able to come out fast early in the first quarter, especially this week.
Answer me this, because let's keep this play rolling. What's DJ Jones' responsibility here as he slides across the 50? He's the biggest guy on the defense. He's obviously, kind of looping around.
He's supposed to loop around and contain. So
just contain in case the quarterback breaks out.
Yes. Okay. Because if that quarterback, see, right, most quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, they'd be gone.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, he's gone. Boom. Right. As soon as that running back flared and that outside linebacker was gone, Josh Allen is gone. Lamar Jackson is gone. Mahomes is gone. Right. So Daniel Jones, he used to run a lot, right? But he didn't see it fast enough. He didn't understand. He didn't pick up all-out blitz. So what does he do? He holds on to the ball, right? So that's just a bad read by Daniel Jones. Your MVP guys, they're going to hit down that left side and see if they can outrun that D tackle.
Well, and you have to keep the D tackle in right on 4th and 2, because if they go inside handoff to Taylor, you want somebody big in there. You can't go with a NASCAR package. And NASCAR package, to explain to people, typically is your edge guys. There might be extra edge guys that pinch down and are rushing from the inside. Usually kind of one one defensive tackle, but almost three pass. Like Jonathan Cooper in NASCAR might come down and basically be an inside player with Benito and Ellis outside of him, or Tillman. And so you can't do that in 4th and 2, right? Because a handoff to Taylor, and Coop is as good as he is against the run on the edge. It's way different when it's a guard and center right there in front of you at his size. All right, so that was our trip to the film room. Let's now look across the field at your other team, at the Chargers. And so you went through this with the Chargers 4 times. Now, I guess you at least missed one game that I can remember, right? Did you play the Broncos 3 times in those 2 years? You definitely missed one game, because I remember there was a game that you weren't, like, you didn't. Am I right?
I might have played 3 times.
So you play, but the point is, after spending your entire career here, 4 Pro Bowls, a Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowl appearances, although again, you, Vaughn, Derek Wolfe were hurt. We should mention that. But all of that history, and now you're in the division. This isn't the same, but we'll get to J.K. Dobbins in a second. But what was it like, the emotion knowing I'm going to play against all my friends, against my team? Like, Vaughn still calls the Broncos we. He's definitely going to say that when the Broncos play him Thanksgiving week. He'll call them we in the press conference.
Yeah. Man, it was definitely weird going into the stadium and coming back to the Mile High and playing there and being on the opposite side. It was definitely weird. But, man, I enjoyed my time in L.A., man. It was fun. The teammates, they welcomed me in. It was fun playing with Derwin James and Lloyd Gilman, seeing how those guys are still playing and still balling, playing with Joey Bosa. I mean, it was fun, man, and just seeing Herbert come in as a rookie and see his development and his growth to where it is now. So it was great, man. It was a great experience over there. Now, as you know, I'm excited to see who's going to win this game. This is a big week. When you have a chance for the Chargers now to extend their lead from everybody in the AFC West, you got to take advantage of this. And in the past, the Chargers haven't taken advantage of situations like this. They've kind of let them loose, right? They've had chances to win playoff games, and they kind of let teams off the hook. So this is what I want to see. I want to see if Herbert is going to put his foot on everybody's neck and see if he wants to be that guy this year. I picked him earlier to win the MVP just because I thought he was going to run more, and I figured that he would have a lot of total yards this year, and I didn't want to pick Josh Allen. But I think Herbert is playing better this year, using his legs. So that brings another challenge to the Broncos, having a guy that can run and can throw like him. It's going to be a big week for them.
All right, well, so let's hear, though, to call it a J.K. Dobbins revenge game, maybe a little much. But, look, this guy who we know how good he was coming out of college, and his body has just failed him a couple of times. Bad luck. Showed flashes in Baltimore, but never really got it going. Last year, he still didn't play all 17 games, but we saw him play very well against the Broncos early. He missed that Thursday night or late in the year when the Broncos blew the 21-point lead. So he plays 13 or 17 games, but has by far his best professional season. And you think, okay, well, they'll bring him back. Maybe if they are going to draft a running back, nice 1-2 punch. He would be a nice 1-2 punch with Amari and Hampton, but they let him go. They signed Najee Harris and then draft Amari and Hampton. So here's J.K. Dobbins, who also, you're not a Texas guy. You are kind of by default. You're an Oklahoma guy, but you live in Texas. Your wife's from Texas. I'm from Texas. J.K., a Texas guy, but chose to go to Ohio State. Nonetheless, revenge game for J.K. Dobbins loading. We'll see. Here he was yesterday talking to the media.
Hopefully I'm going to touch 100 this week. However that may be, however many touches that may be, I'm trying to touch 100 this week for sure, though, because it would only be right. I'm back where I used to play. And I think God will bless me with that. So we'll see. We'll see, though.
I like that answer.
So, it's a good answer. I think we'd love to see a 100-yard rushing game from Dobbins. And, and I can pull it up here. Dobbins played way more than either Bidet or Harvey last week. I mean, he played 40 snaps week 1, and the other 2 averaged, I think, 12. And, he played 40 of the 60 snaps, give or take, week 1, and it was even more last week. But what do you think about the idea that it's a Dobbins revenge game?
Oh, I love it, man. He's playing good. He's obviously, I think he's the best running back for us. Scheme wise, being able to block, being able to do everything, being a complete back. I think he is the best guy for the Broncos right now, and he runs hard. He breaks tackles. He just always had a nose for the end zone, even through college. He's always in the end zone. So I know he's going to be ready to run. And, the Chargers have a good run defense. They have a nice run linebacker, nice D-line, big boys up front. So we need them. We need the O-line to do a great job being able to get space, give these guys some alleys, because it's going to be crucial to be able to control the clock this week. The Chargers want to play. They play games where they're always big on time management and being able to have time of possession. And the Broncos have to do a great job of being able to do that. Keep Herbert off the field.
Yeah, when you look, their offense isn't lighting the world up, but they didn't destroy the Chiefs, but they seemed to control that game pretty handily. And then same thing Monday night. They didn't win 48-9. They won 20-9, but they're playing Jim Harbaugh football. I think the difference that we're seeing, and maybe it's just as simple as getting Keenan Allen back, Johnston clearly taking a step forward, plus Ladd McConkey, is that their run game isn't where it was last year with Dobbins and Edwards and all that, certainly early. So they're relying on Herbert to be a top 5 kind of talent. So kind of what's the key, if you're the Broncos, to keeping Herbert from getting comfortable with those weapons?
We got to eliminate the running backs out the backfield, the tight ends. Ladd McConkey is going to be huge. Is he hurt? Where's he at on the injury list?
Yesterday, he was full practice yesterday, and they're practicing right now, and we'll see the injury report here in a couple hours as we're taping this.
And see how many yards did he have on us last year? Because I remember him catching a lot of footballs.
Yeah, well, especially in that game against in LA, it was like the Ladd McConkey show, and he had a couple. I think early, he's still early in his career here. Now, I don't think too many were on PS2, but and at that point,
J-Mac. J-Mac is the target this week. I would put him as a player to watch. 29. The linebackers players to watch because they're going after those guys. They're going to follow a lot of the same blueprint from the Colts. You can see Ladd. I think he likes his matchup versus J-Mac. Right, that's going to be a great matchup. Johnson, I don't think Johnson has anything for PS2. I can see him, definitely trying Riley Moss over there with Johnson. Keenan Allen, just always a savvy guy. He might find some ways to get on the safety but this is a J-Mac game, right? This is the J-Mac and the Ladd McConkey game and the linebackers. Who's going to win in the middle of the field?
Well, and that's where you got to be a little concerned because Dre Greenlaw didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. And, I'm heading over there as soon as I get done talking to you. But even like last week where he was sort of there on Friday, we know he didn't play. Now, if he plays next Monday against the Bengals, on Monday Night Football, then you say, okay, it was good to keep him off IR. But if he doesn't, then you basically just kept a roster spot. Now, they're not very banged up, but they are banged up inside because behind him, Sternad, who's played a bunch, is dealing with a foot thing. Now, he was, I think, more of a participant on Thursday, and so he's trending in the right direction. But you're right. This is where Najee Harris could, maybe get a little more comfortable. Same with Hampton. But let me ask you about one more guy, because even though Greenlaw hadn't played, his former Niners teammate, Talanoa Hufanga, definitely has played. Save the touchdown, save the play, as we were watching on the in the film room on the big wheel route on the pass play to Taylor. He's leading the team in tackles with 21. What do you think of Hufanga through 2 games?
I mean, I think he's definitely been an amazing pickup. That was the pickup they need to bring that steadiness to the back end. A vet, sure tackler. He sticks his head into everything. He loves contact. So I think that's been a great pickup. I love the way he plays. So we just need the other guy. We need Jones to continue to step up and do his role. And this guy's he's a crucial. I would put him as a cornerstone piece in the defense because he's smart. He's going to hit you. He's going to be in the right spot majority of the time, right? And he can make plays at all 3 levels. So he can make plays on the line of scrimmage. He can make plays in the middle, and he can make plays back deep. So when you have a guy like that, those guys are always always irreplaceable.
All right, let's do a prediction for this game last. Let's look at just a couple other games before we get out of here. What are, we were talking a little bit before we got going. We've got a bunch of backup quarterbacks. Maybe let's start there real quick. So no J.J. McCarthy. We know that he is clearly a work in progress regardless, but you're going to get Carson Wentz there. Marcus Mariota for Jaden Daniels. So that certainly changes what they do. Although Mariota, we know, has maybe in some ways a similar skill set, both Heisman winners. Mac Jones again for another week with Purdy out. Tyrod Taylor for Justin Fields. And I feel like I'm missing one more that maybe it'll come to me. Regardless, that's
Joe Burrow, Browning.
Yeah, Browning, obviously, for potentially 3 months, give or take, unless they make a move or whatever. So I guess what's to say one where you got 5 marquee quarterbacks that are not playing this week, obviously Burrow for a long time. And then how that changes your team, for a single week, like the case with Mariota, hopefully, for them, versus what the Bengals are now. Like Jake Browning's our guy, and they did win with him the other day.
Yeah, we're seeing this a lot. The last couple of years, quarterbacks been going down. You got to have a solid backup. And sometimes these quarterbacks now, they run a lot more, they scramble a lot more, they're throwing more twerking, more twisting and turning throws, and their bodies are doing different things on the field. Probably more than 10 from 10 years ago from when I was playing. So now we're seeing a lot more and more quarterbacks going down, and you got to have a solid backup. So I'm rocking with Mac Jones. Just because I feel like he's starter, he's played a lot in this league. He's been bounced around, but I think this might be the offense that fits him well. He balled versus Saints, and so I'm gonna go with Mac Jones as being the backup guy that's gonna lead the pack for everybody.
Well, and it helps that we know how good a coach Kyle Shanahan is. If everyone around him is healthy, so you got a healthy Trent Williams, you get a healthy C-Mac. If you get Ayuk back at some point here sooner than later. Pearsall's really good. We know about their defense. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. And even though the Rams are really good, I think the Cardinals are improved. We know the Seahawks are tough. I don't think anyone's running away with that division. So and Mac has shown that he can play some good football. So with Kyle there, I'm kind of with you. I think that Mariota against the Raiders this week, they're still 7.5-point favorites in DC. And obviously a short week for the Raiders too, just like the Chargers. Do you like Mariota there? I don't know if I love him to cover, but I feel like I won't be surprised if the Commanders win.
Yeah, I still like Mariota. I think he's just going to be solid with the football. Their offense is spreading the ball around. Only thing I'm not excited about is the Commanders' run game. Losing Eckler, you trade away Robinson. They need some consistency in the run game. That's what Daniels had last year, and he doesn't have it right now. So that's safety blanket back there. So that's the only thing with Mariota. But I think he the Raiders ain't looking good. Geno's, you see what he's doing right now. So I would bet more on the Commanders this week.
Steelers Patriots on paper is an exciting game, but I'm not really that excited about it, especially with what we saw from the Steelers. So I think the two games that everyone's looking at outside of obviously Broncos country and the handful of Chargers fans that still exist that are looking at that game. The two biggest games for sure, I think, have to be the NFC playoff rematch, Rams and Eagles. And so you get the Rams, even though Stafford may not be 100%, they're still finding ways to win games, and Puka's not 100%.
Looks 100%.
Yeah,
the way Stafford's out there throwing, I mean, this guy is throwing darts. And then also, off scheduled throws, running and throwing no lookers. And Matthew Stafford is just different. He's on a whole nother level, right? Young kids, watch Matthew Stafford and look at the way he throws the football. So I think they can beat the Eagles. I think the Eagles take a loss this week. I'm going with the Rams.
Yeah, and you got to assume that they're probably in the air now on their way or will be soon. Yeah. to try to, because they just left that as an early game. Like there's nothing, no afternoon window. No
they play at 12?
They play at what'll be 1 Eastern, so 10 o'clock Pacific.
No, I'm going with the Eagles then. The NFL does that. They do that to us. They'll schedule us coming from LA, a long flight, and then now we're dead in the morning. So, I'm going to go with the Eagles on that one.
Okay. And then the other, I think, biggest game, the Chiefs are going to New York and they need to find a way to win. That's the Sunday night game. So everybody will get to see that after what they, hopefully the Broncos fans watching to see a Broncos win. Lions, Ravens. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites. That is your Monday night game. So you get a team that a lot of people certainly liked as a Super Bowl team a year ago. They're a work in progress, but they definitely got some things figured out in week 2. Mind you, it was against the Bears and a guy they know pretty well in Ben Johnson. Against the Ravens team that scored 40 in each of their first 2 games.
Yeah, I got the Ravens winning that. You know, their offense is just tough right now. Derrick Henry didn't run the football well last week versus the Browns. The Browns did a great job of making them shut that down. And I like the way the Lions answered the call, right? You bounce back Jared Goff with, I think, 5 touchdowns. And, you know, in a rivalry game, division game. So, you know, that was big by him. But, you know, I don't think they're capable. I don't think they have the team fully ready to beat the Ravens yet.
Yeah, so then let's get to the final pick because I'm with you. I think the Ravens do beat the Lions, but Broncos and Chargers. Broncos are 2.5-point dogs. We know, and look, you played in it.
Yeah,
that is a home game for Broncos country. The Chargers lost a bunch of fans. I mean, Broncos fans, because I remember going back to the big Monday night comeback there with Peyton in 2012. Like, we know how well Broncos fans are on, travel and are already situated on the West Coast. But now it's not 50-50. It's a home game. And so with that in mind, they're not flying out early or anything, but it's, 2:05 kick. And again, Chargers are 2.5-point favorites. No Khalil Mack. He's on IR. We'll see what's up with Evan Ingram's back. And obviously, we don't expect Dre Greenlaw. But how do you see it playing out?
Yeah. I think the Broncos win this game. Tight game. I would say 18-21. I think they pull this game off just because the Chargers losing Mack, not really having a solidified pass rush. I think Bo Nix has a great day in the back end, even though it's going to be tough. They're very stingy back there. I think Bo Nix is the reason why they win this game.
Yeah, I'm
it's just more urgent for them. It's more urgent. When you're in the league and you're 2-0 and, you can kind of let off the gas just a little bit. And I think the Broncos are just fully I have a feeling they're fully urgent over there, right?
Yeah.
They should be very concerned with this week coming into this game and should be ready to roll.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I was on Fox 31. I go on with them every Friday and gave a score prediction of 21-20, 23-20, 20-18. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I don't think anybody's scoring 30. I don't think it's a 28-10 win either way. And the Broncos, look, they showed they could go to LA and get a big lead. It's can they hold on to it? And so, we're on the same page. We did have a couple comments that came in, so we might as well throw them up there on our way out the door. So in no particular order, my guy Kenny, he's the one that makes the cool custom action figures. Like I've got that.
Oh, okay, what's up, man?
The KU one of you. So I know you've got some too. So
I gotta go find mine, man. I gotta put them up here.
All right, we'll finally get it. Yeah, we got to get it up here for Football Fridays for sure, and for We're the Harrises every Tuesday as well. And then one last one there from Cecil C's, my favorite Bronco ever, CHJ 25, San Diego boy, but he bleeds orange and blue. Catch me in SoFi this Sunday rocking the Chris Harris jersey. So if I see him, I will send you. Maybe I'll do that week after week when I'm going everywhere. I'll see the different Chris, like if it's all the same orange, I don't need to take, but if I can see an orange, a white, a blue, we'll see how many we can find. Maybe someone's got a Jayhawk 16 one, that I'm partial to.
I've seen one in there. I've seen one in the stands before. Yeah. So there's a lot of Jayhawk fans everywhere. You'd be surprised.
there absolutely are. So we know we'll keep following your thoughts on this team and this game on social media throughout the weekend. And then again, you'll be with Shelby Harris and Ryan Harris next week. And then back with me again for another Football Fridays as we get ready for a Monday night affair against Jake Browning and the Bengals. So, football, God's helping the Broncos out a little bit there, at least on paper. But, Chris, this was a lot of fun as always, and I will catch you next week. Thanks so much to David as well, helping out, and John. But this has been Football Fridays. Thanks. He's Chris Harris Jr. I'm BK.